crisp morning at 16 degrees Celsius. Just before we went live, just a few months, becomes drier as we go into the winter, that the likelihood of finding a leopard up a tree is much higher because we can see a lot further, and becomes drier as we go into the winter, that the likelihood of finding a leopard up a tree is much higher because we can see a lot further, and all we need now is to drive past the correct tree with either a leopard in it or even a kill dangling down from a tree would be fairly easy to see, because it looks like it doesn't belong in the tree, which it doesn't really. Also, to keep you updated, Nikki is in the director's chair this morning with Eugene lending a hand. Just prior warning to all of you is that Brian will be heading off on leave on Sunday, and what that will mean is that the presenters, Brent, James and myself, are going to be helping us with the cameras, so apologies in advance for some potentially shaky camera work. We've all been practicing. I've spent a little bit of time behind the camera. Brent and James have been doing a little bit of practice between the drives, and we'll continue to also practice until Brian leaves. And he's not going for good, he's just taking a break, a much deserved break. And that's something that will be happening. Another thing that will be happening is that there will be two more presenters, or potential presenters, coming through for interviews. Both guides that all of us actually know from the industry, and we look forward to having them with us. They're going to be here. Chris will be doing his drive on the morning of the 2nd, and Byron will be doing his interview drives on the 5th or the 6th, I can't remember. So there'll be a few very small changes and faces and people behind the camera that we'd like to warn you about. And it really is a great opportunity for us to understand the difficulties behind all the roles out here. It's very easy just to the presenters, as presenters, to realize Central Junction.
There comes the glorious African sun. I believe some people don't. Andrew says we have a tree following us. It's very disconcerting when non-immobile organisms follow you. See if that sorted it out. I don't think we're going to bash around in here for too long. Any predictions from you would be most appreciated. Right in the core of Shadow's territory. Leopard's territory is normally probably about 15 hectares. No, sorry, 150 hectares, 15 square kilometers, which is quite an area. So it would seem that the satellite issues are sorted out. We just launched a rocket, put a new one up there. That's how we roll out here. Go back in this way and just see if we can't pick up on some tracks. Right, while we carry on looking for the tracks, I'm going to send you back to Scott, who's arrived at one of the water holes, and we'll see what he's got there.
Welcome back, and apologies for the choppy signal. It has evidently sent across a few misleading messages. Nobody's leaving us. Brian is simply going on holiday, and when he's gone, just for a couple of weeks, the presenters will be helping out with a bit of camera work, and we are looking for a new cameraman as well, so put in your applications if you would like a job with us. But nobody's going anywhere. It's just a few holidays, and a few more interviewees will be coming in the coming week as presenters. Now, interestingly enough, we through default ended up following the tracks of that leopard just to see where she had come from, and she came in a long straight line, probably about 1.5 miles along our eastern boundary called Cheetah Cut Line, before veering off down that track where we found her tracks earlier. And sadly, we couldn't follow those tracks, and that's not uncommon when you are on safari. There's certain areas where you can traverse and other areas where you simply can't. And it's very important that those traversing agreements are kept in check to ensure that everybody who's out here gets a great experience, and there's never too many vehicles in any given property. So that's the reason behind it. Nobody's being selfish or anything like that. It's simply to make a better experience for everyone. As frustrating as it can be when you cannot follow tracks, it certainly does make sense. Now, we're just arriving at Buffelshoek Dam, and I wonder what is going to be here. You never know. So don't go anywhere, because in the next moment or two we will know exactly who is here, and even potentially who has been here last night, just by looking at the tracks in the ground. And that's one thing that you have to remember when you are approaching a waterhole, is not to speed in too excitedly, overlooking any tracks or signs that could provide you with useful information. Doesn't look like anything's approached the dam from this side, but again, I'm just going to make sure. Absolutely beautiful day out here, and that's fairly common in winter. We've got very constant weather, and it's basically blue skies and sunny days throughout the winter. The rainy season is in the summer, so that's when we experience a little bit more cloud cover and obviously rain. I've got one animal at the waterhole, and it's a wonderful, wonderful animal. It's a really big hippopotamus, of which you can only see its ears, eyes and nostrils at the moment. And I wonder what time he returned to the waterhole this morning. During winter there's less and less food around for the herbivores, so animals like hippo, who spend their nights out grazing on grass, will have to venture further afield and often spend longer feeding, and that's why in winter we can sometimes actually see them on their way back into the waterhole even after sunrise. As you can see though, he's very relaxed, and another thing that is nice to think about is how far he may have travelled in search of his food last night. They can travel quite comfortably 10 or 15 miles in search of food. That's not necessarily the case at the moment, but if they need to, they can travel large distances in search of food. And while he's sitting in the water relaxing, there's a few beautiful birds coming down to drink. There's some Cape turtle doves, one of which is just warming itself up on the bank on the left, and then the others further down to the water, I think, are taking a few little sips of water. There we go. And you can clearly see that black ring on the back of their neck. That's a great indicating sign of a Cape turtle dove. And they, along with a lot of other birds and animals, will be enjoying basking in the sunshine. There's also another little animal further across on the opposite bank that's looking for some breakfast. It's a little tree squirrel. And wouldn't it be great if we saw it find an old marula seed that would have passed through the digestive system of an elephant a few months ago, and now the squirrels are essentially treasure hunting, digging through old piles of elephant dung looking for any marula fruits and other seeds and fruits, not just the marula fruits, but that is certainly one of their favorites. What a beautiful morning it is here. Well, we're gonna continue on. It's been a great break here. Good to see the resident hippo. But I think it might be worth us continuing on. The great thing about stopping like this every few minutes and enjoying the sightings of the Cape turtle doves and the squirrels and the hippo is also just to listen. Listening can be one of the most effective ways of finding out what's going on out here. And oh, just got a visitor that landed right in front of us. Also coming down for a morning drink. This is a Birchall starling. Very pretty, and their feathers iridesce wonderfully in the morning sunlight. And this is going to buy us a bit more time to stop and listen. And it's coming really close to the vehicle and will slowly pop out of view, or will it? Just... And while Brian's at it, there's also another bird called the... Oh, look at this. This is really interesting. There's a small bird of prey that's just landed in the tree. I'm not sure what it was, but the Cape turtle doves, if you go down to the left a bit, Brian, I think, there it is in there. I can't see what it is from here, but I'm too nervous to move the vehicle because it's quite close. It's a small bird of prey, and as soon as the Cape turtle doves saw it, they were off. And all the other birds. There were also some grey go-away birds that I was hoping to show you. Well, this looks like a tricky little bird to identify. And I'm going to try and reposition the vehicle so we can get a better view on it, and that way you guys can get... Oh no! But maybe it's going to land in the dead tree. Okay, well, it's not easy to identify, but we're going to take a moment. It's quite far from us. I don't know if it could possibly be a juvenile African goshawk. It's got the very distinctive stripes on its chest. So that could possibly be who it is, but it does look a little bit small to be that. It can be really tricky with the small raptors, as a lot of them look similar, and when they're juveniles, it can be even more tricky. Now, I'm not sure if it's a little sparrowhawk or an African goshawk. I'm not sure what you guys think. But I will get the two birds that it could be in my book to give you a quick look. At the moment I'm leaning towards a little sparrowhawk, which is the bird on the bottom left here. It also has that distinctive striped chest, but if you look just a little bit up in the book, there's the African goshawk, which also looks quite similar. But I think this individual is a bit too small for an African goshawk, so my guess would be the little sparrowhawk. Having said that though, I will be happy to hear your thoughts as to what you may think it may be. And what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer, and that way give you an opportunity to get a closer look at it, because it's very difficult from this distance. So, hold on a moment. Now we're going to sneak up as stealthily as we can in our vehicle. Brian is crouched down, hiding behind the camera. Okay, we should be able to get a much better look from here. Oh, it's a tricky one. Very pretty little bird of prey. I'm almost certain it's a juvenile, which with a lot of the raptors will make identifying difficult. Well, I still seem to think. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's off. Well, that very white rump as it flew off was another good indicating feature that it could well be the little sparrowhawk. So that's going to be the guess that I stick with. But again, we'll be happy to have anybody's thoughts or suggestions as to who exactly that could have been. One last check to see that nothing's crept up to the water hole while we were all focused on that little bird, and that can happen. Well, to Matt in Texas. Good morning, and thanks for sending through your suggestion. Matt also thinks it's a little sparrowhawk, so I'm glad we're on the same page. As well as RC in the Netherlands. So thanks very much for helping me with identifying that bird. And when birding, it's always good to have a few other people's opinions as to what exactly it could be that you're looking at. And again, it just goes to show how useful it is that this is an interactive safari, not just for us answering your questions, but for you to answer ours. So thanks very much for that. And we've got another suggestion through from Simone. And morning, Simone, thanks for sending through your suggestion. Simone did mention that just like the little sparrowhawk, a Gabar goshawk will also have a little white mark above its rump when it's in flight. Now, sadly, the pictures in the book don't show this, as all the pictures of the birds in flight show their underbellies. But what I can tell you, Simone, is that there's a few raptors, not only the little sparrowhawks, that do have this very diagnostic white bar at the base of their tail feathers. Now, it could well have been a Gabar goshawk, Simone, and I'm certainly not saying that it's not, but both the Gabar goshawk and the little sparrowhawk at the bottom here both have that diagnostic white tail rump. But the difference is that the Gabar goshawk has got 3 narrow bars on the tail in flight that, again, you can't see very clearly in these pictures here, but on the top of their tail there's 3 lighted bars that you can see. Now, I didn't see those 2 white bars. On the little sparrowhawk there's 2 little white spots on the top of the tail. Again, you can't see that, oh, here we can while it sits seated here. Now, I didn't manage to see the white spots, and again, it's a lot more evidence in the adults than it is in the juveniles. A Gabar goshawk is a little bit bigger than this little sparrowhawk, and that's what's making me lean towards little sparrowhawk, simply from the size of the bird. Now, obviously, it's difficult for you to establish how big it is just from looking at it on the pictures we zoom through to you, but it certainly could have been a Gabar goshawk, Simone, and thank you for putting that suggestion into the mix. I'm sure RC and Matt in Texas are now checking closely to see if it also wasn't a Gabar goshawk. And that's what it's about. There's a lot of things out here that will keep us guessing and we'll never know the answer to, and that's the beauty of it. Now, we're about to start descending into a very low-lying area in the next minute or so, where our signal will in all likelihood become a little bit of a problem, and I think that's perfect timing because I'm sure James has got something to update you on how his morning's been. So, rather than taking any chances and losing the signal from our vehicle, why don't you head on to James and enjoy whatever entertainment he has in store for you. We'll catch up a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. The morning has remained fairly unproductive from an animal point of view, but it has also remained rather spectacular. It's starting to warm up. The chill of the evening is seemingly over, although Andrew still looks like he's dressed for a prolonged expedition to the South Pole. Just an update on the tracks that we were hoping to find. We haven't found any, which indicates to me that this young leopard is still probably in this block here to my right-hand side. But without evidence of tracks, it's going to be quite difficult to find him. So we're going to leave the area for a little while and head on down towards one of the water holes and see what we can find there. And then we'll come back into the area a bit later. Like I say, if these leopards don't want to be found, it's quite difficult to make them be found. I believe you saw a sparrowhawk with Scott. It's quite exciting. Just going to turn off quickly. And if you heard that, that's called a pearl-spotted owl. There's also a drongo that's mimicking it. Now I'm going to do my best to mimic it and see if we can't get it to come a bit closer. Now we wait and see. It's calling again. Sometimes you can get them to come and fly right up to you. sometimes they just ignore you, like this one is doing. One more try and see if he doesn't come a bit closer.
Morning stations, any updates?
No, this one is not going to help us out. I once was in the throes of early love, as one does when one is a young man, at a game reserve, and the object of my affection's mother came to visit her, and I took her on a game drive, and we called one of those owls, and it came from miles away and eventually came and sat just above the vehicle. And that clinched the deal for, as far as the mother was concerned. I never quite succeeded with the daughter. Oh well, you win some and lose some. Idea is to head down towards Arathusa Dam. I'm in a fairly unfamiliar area, terra incognito as it were. So if we do get lost, I apologize, but you probably won't notice from where you're sitting. Andrew might, his eyes just start to get bigger and bigger. We're driving along what we call a marula crest here, and if you look around you can see that all the big trees of the area are marula trees, and they like the well-drained sandy soils on these crests. And then as you go further down off the edge of the crest, you find those silver cluster leaf trees, or Terminalia sericea. And then down into the lowlands or sodic areas, which we mentioned yesterday, you find the guarri bushes and quite a few of the acacia trees. Looks like a nice clearing. Right, it would appear that we might be on some form of airstrip, but we'll see. That is good news, where I thought we were. So these clearings are often, I mean, this one has been artificially cleared, but they're indicative of sodic soils or sodium-rich soils. The big trees like the marulas don't like the thickness of the soil or the density or the amount of sodium and nutrients that there is in the soil. Stop next to this tree here. I'm sure for our regulars that will present no problem to identify. It is called Peltophorum africanum, or the weeping wattle. Apparently the leaves can be used or soaked in water to create some form of eye ointment. I, again, haven't used that particular one. I find putting untreated medicines in my eye to be a somewhat scary affair. But it's also, if you can't feel it, of course, it's very soft. Very, very soft paper or leaves. And I'm told that it's traditionally used as a as a lavatory paper, if you like. I'm not sure that it's structurally the best for that, but apparently that is the case. I suspect because of its extremely soft texture. That's the weeping wattle, Peltophorum africanum. So we haven't really hit the cold of the winter yet, although I seem to be wrapped up a bit like a Michelin man. It's end of May, and I think it's quite unusually warm for this time of year. That could be just sort of an unusual year. We've had a very low rainfall year, and that could have something to do with it. Might have something to do with global warming. Might just be a hot day. Okay. I've just heard that Scott has found another sparrowhawk. Apparently there's a good view of him, so I'm going to cross quickly back before it flies off. Enjoy. See you just now. Hopefully we won't be lost.
Welcome back, everyone, and we've got really lucky. We found what we think is an adult little sparrowhawk, and it's high up in this knobthorn acacia, and even though it's facing away from us, you can see the two distinctive tail blotches, little white blotches on the center of the tail. There are other blotches that you can see at the top and the bottom of the tail, but those are not the main ones that we focused on at the moment. So, and again, just from this bird's size, we can be almost certain that this is a little sparrowhawk, especially now that we can see an adult. And what are the chances of seeing two of them on the same morning? Just got a question through from, I think it's Nancy in California, and Nancy would like to know if, Vancy, sorry Nancy, Nancy, and Vancy would like to know whether it's in the falcon family, and no, it's not. The goshawks and sparrowhawks are all similar, and all the birds of prey fall into their different families. They're all raptors, carnivorous, hunters, but they've all got slight differences. Eagles, for example, to be classified as an eagle, the bird would have to have feathered legs, so its legs would be covered in feathers, and that would be one characteristic that separates eagles from other birds of prey. Now, all of them have got slight differences, and falcons are in a slightly different category to the sparrowhawks. But no, they are not in the same family, Vancy. They're all slightly different. Well, it's not easy to see because it is quite far away, and we are going to continue, and hope you have enjoyed this glimpse of an adult little sparrowhawk. And like a lot of the animals, especially the birds, they enjoy basking in the morning sunshine before getting to business as it warms up. It's a great time of year to see birds that can be harder to see in winter when there's more foliage on the trees, and also when they don't have the requirement to warm themselves up in the morning and sit still out in the open. So it's certainly one of the benefits of being out and exploring in the winter time. Now, I'm going to show you something. We've actually been tracking an animal for the last mile or so, and it's quite an easy animal to track because it's got very, very large tracks. Now, I'm going to leave this up to you to tell me who it is whose prints we can see in the road. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hop out and stand next to the tracks to give you an idea of size, as that is going to be very useful in identifying which animal this is. Give me a moment. So that is the back of the foot, and that is the front of the foot, and that should give you a good idea of size. I'm a size 9 on a good day, size 8 on a day that's not so good for me. I sadly don't know the relevant conversions that may be used elsewhere, but I think we work off a European index here. Anyway, it's a large animal that's been walking in a southerly direction for, like I say, about a mile now, and it's an animal that, even though it's quite large, we don't see very often, simply because there's not many around here. So send your answers through as to what you think that animal is to questions@WildEarthTV or hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And even if you don't know the answer to that specific question that I've asked you, you can use those same addresses to ask me any questions of anything that you would like to know out here. It really is incredible for us, though, to be able to watch and see some of you, the viewers, learning and becoming seasoned safari goers. Even though you may never have been to Africa before, some of our viewers have got incredible knowledge of what goes on out here, and it's great because it keeps us on our toes, that's for sure. The tracks now continue. It veered off the road temporarily, as animals often will do, especially when the roads meander like they do. They will use them when it suits them, but then sometimes veer off and take little shortcuts. Tracks are still going down the road in front of us, and I'm hoping we're going to get lucky. The tracks look to me to be quite fresh. There haven't been clear signs of any other animals moving on top of them, which is a good indicator. If there had been tracks of nocturnal animals moving on top of them, then that would point out to us that it may not be very fresh. But I'm feeling confident we're going to find this animal. It may take us a while.
Hi everyone, we're on still terra incognito here on Arathusa. We're just going to approach the waterhole. There's a squirrel there, can you get him? No, oh, no, too fast, sorry. Very fast squirrel. See what's drinking at the water. It's quite a big dam as far as I know. I've never been here before. So it might not be around the corner at all. See, as we go down the slope, the bush gets a bit thicker because the water table gets that much higher. Now, if I'm not mistaken, a right-hand turn here should take us to the water. And no doubt there will be endless animals bathing, drinking, wallowing, and generally celebrating this glorious morning. Alternatively, there could be nothing. Well, there's at least a hippo. This is Arathusa Safari Lodge, so I think a lot of you will follow on camera anyway. Let's get a bit of a wide view of what's going on here, and then a closer look. In fact, there's a hippo quite close to the shore there. I'm going to just go to him. You can see how little water we've had this year by the sort of how dry this dam is. Very nice views of some hippos there, lurking as they do in the water. They, a bit like lions, tend to favour the option of doing nothing for most of the day. Peaceful little scene we have here. There's a dove flying by. There's a hornbill on the ground there. You can hear the dove going. Red-billed hornbill, one of 4 species we get here. He's digging in some elephant dung there to see what kind of invertebrates may be snacking on the dung. The hippo's come out of the water a bit. No, he's just sunk down with his head resting on his friend's bottom. Have a look there. You may be able to hear a bit of chatter in the background. That's from Arathusa Safari Lodge. This is when all the ladies will go around and look after the rooms while the guests are out doing what we're doing. Hippos love to spend the time in the water, not necessarily because they enjoy swimming, but because they've evolved. It's a very sort of clever strategy and an untapped niche in many ways. Very safe place to be if you want to be away from big cats or hyenas, which are not great swimmers. They will swim, but they're not great, and they obviously can't kill in the water. And so to be, oh, there's a really nice, look at the little one there covered in the water lilies. That's great. And so to be in the water is a good thing, but obviously for a mammal, being in the water, you need to be adapted to cold, and so they have a thick layer of blubber, a bit like a cetacean or whale might, that will help them through that. And they also have skin that is extremely sensitive to the sun, so they need to stay in the water, or they do burn quite badly. You can see how perfectly aligned their ears, nose and eyes are, and that allows them to be completely submerged while using all three of those senses at the same time, looking out for predators. Not that much will take an adult hippo. The only thing an adult hippo has to worry about would be something like a lion or a very large pack of hyenas. So not a huge amount going on here, and probably more going on at the lodge. So let's press on and see what else we can see. So far I don't seem to be lost on Arathusa, which is a good thing. I'm going to head around back towards the area where the leopard was. No one else seems to be looking for him for some reason, so we'll go back in that general direction. Like I say, we haven't found any tracks though. Let's consult my map. I know where we are. Some hyena tracks on the road. The roads are often filled with hyena tracks from the evening. And what's interesting about them is that while they are clan dwelling animals, so they do live in groups often, they forage hugely on their own. So especially at night time, you'll find single tracks of hyena on the road. Especially in areas that are where the bush is a bit thicker and the herds are a bit more dispersed. In the Serengeti, for example, you'll find them probably in much closer knit groups, and here they'll disperse much more. Second Windmill Road. If it isn't, we're about to start trespassing. So if the screen goes blank, you know I've been arrested. Tracks of monkeys on the road. It's always interesting to me how in winter the mornings seem to be quieter than they do in the summertime. Almost as if the animals have decided that they want to stay wrapped up in their beds for a bit longer, like we would. Obviously they don't have beds out here, but they may well stay in some thick bush or hide in a patch of sun somewhere and not move too much. Is that hyena, Andrew?
Yes, hyena.
Andrew spotted some hyena tracks. It'd be quite nice if Andrew would spot some hyenas for us. Some white-tailed mongoose tracks, some kudu and waterbuck, mostly from yesterday. California. Welcome to the morning. Thank you for your question. You want to know if the water plants that were in the water hole there impede the hippo at all in any way. The answer is no, they don't. Not in a place like that. You know, those hippos are standing where they are. They're not floating. So it's pretty easy for them to break the surface and stand up and move around them. They don't, in fact, contrary to popular belief, they don't eat any of that water vegetation, or very little of it. They'll eat at night, they come out to graze, and so they do very little feeding in the water. Smell something here, and I'll try and explain to you what it smells like. I've forgotten what this wild herb is called. It's related to the sedges, not sedges, to the sages. You see it there, Andrew?
Yes.
Got a really nice sort of herby smell, and especially in the summertime when it's big and dry, it just covers these areas in a very sort of subtle, delightful sort of smell of saffron and sage. Hyena tracks and tracks of a civet. Check that we're not going off course. No, we should be fine. Sorry about that, lost my communication device. James on Twitter. Welcome to the morning. You have asked if I know what the word Arethusa means. No, I don't know what the word Arethusa means, I'm afraid. I will try and find out though, and we'll get back to you on that. Often these names, have some sort of meaning, but they're lost in, in prehistory. Somebody bought a farm one day and called it that after, named it after half their daughter's name and half their son's name, plus their grandmother's maiden name, and they come up with a pretty word like Arethusa. I'm not sure what it means, but we'll try and find out. I don't think it's from a local language though. And this especially happens when there's some wildebeest. Look at that, a veritable migration. Teeming herds streaming across the plains. Or more accurately, two. Much maligned animal. This supposed to be stupid. They do look stupid, I have to admit. But looks can be deceiving. They don't occur in the huge herds that they do in East Africa here, because, as you can see, the bush is obviously much thicker, and they prefer the open areas where they can see predators that might be coming after them. So often here you'll find them with other people. So often in these areas you'll find them with other animals like impala or with zebra, where they can use the extra eyes to look out for predators, especially if they don't have space or clearings in which to live. We had a question the other day about why the hyenas have a sloping back, and I said there was an antelope that has not an antelope, an ungulate that has a sloping back, and this is the one that I meant. And these look like two young bulls to me. They're sort of in prime condition, and they have that sloping back because in East Africa they migrate huge distances, and they used to do that in South Africa too. Apparently not quite the scale that they do in East Africa, but up to 100,000 wildebeest would migrate between the perennial Sand River here and the annual Timbavati River in the summer, which is about 70 kilometers north of where I am now. And the reason they don't anymore is because as this land has been parceled out amongst various landowners, everybody has started to pump their own water. So for a long time people thought that adding water to an area would increase the amount of game there was. And that isn't necessarily true. What it does is it favors animals. I'm just going to look with my binoculars quickly. Hold that thought. Don't panic. I shall return to it now. There's a warthog lurking in the bushes there, but you won't see him. And so what happened was that people, individual landowners all wanted their own waterholes because they all wanted to attract as many animals as possible. But what that did was to stop the migration of animals like wildebeest, because if they don't have to move, they won't. And it also increased the number of impala, for example, in an area, and they will outcompete just about everything else as long as they have sufficient water. But they can't migrate like some of these animals, like some of these things like wildebeest or even eland can. We have some update on the word Arathusa. This could be quite interesting. Brandy, wherever you are, you're obviously a bit of a genius. She says it comes from the North Sotho or Pedi word Reathusa, which means we are helping. That's quite an interesting thought. That's probably pretty accurate. So the Pedis are a group of South Africans that live not so much in this area, normally a little bit further north of us and up into the Highveld, but certainly there are lots of Pedis around the area. We're going to leave these fairly magnificent old bulls and press on. called Dularay, confirming, thank you very much, that Arathusa comes from the Pedi word Reathusa. So what I know about Pedi is that Re means we, Thusa probably means help. Name really. Elephant tracks on the road. You're not that old. Put my other hat on. Sun's come up. Arrow marked babblers calling there. And like everything else this morning, they are hiding. The distinctive smell of elephant dung in the area. Quite nice to see an elephant. To where they found, I think the male leopard's name is Tingana. They found him around here at some stage last week. He won't be here anymore. He was seen mating further north just after that. But this is obviously the part of the core of his territory. I don't know if you can, how much of this tree you can get in here. This is a tree that you identified the other day. It is called a low-felt milkberry or Manilkara machisa. And what I just really like about it is that it looks like enchanted. You can see from the way its branches intertwine and the leaves stick up. It just looks to me that if there was ever a bush spirit, this is the tree in which he'd choose to live. He or she would choose to live. Or both. It's Manilkara machisa, the low-felt milkberry. I do know is that if I go straight here, I will be arrested. So we'll go down this road. People are quite protective of their property out here. around us of the birds, especially these little drainage lines, and firefinches and waxbills, titilias, canaries even. That was the tree there where Tingana had his impala killed. The jackalberry tree, or Diospirus mespiliformes. Good word that, mespiliformes. Nice ring to the tongue. Mespiliformes. Back towards where Shadow's cub was. I haven't found any tracks coming out of that area yet, so maybe we'll be lucky at the 11th hour like we were last night. Maybe we will just continue to blunder through the bush like we are now, enjoying the smells and sounds. Beautiful big jackalberry here. Massive old tree. I don't know what what are those leaves underneath it there, Andrew? They might be tambuetis. They're not. I'm going to go and take a sample, and then I'm going to get one of our tree geniuses to identify. Oh dear. Attached to the vehicle. Right, there we go. So speaking of spirits, you can imagine one living up in there. Also maybe a black mamba, so I probably won't stick my head up there. This is a tambueti tree, but I'm not sure what this one is. No, it's also tambueti. Look carefully. You can see the milky latex just starting to come out there. You get that, Andrew? I'll squeeze some out here. Let's put it here. Get a better look. Just see the latex there. Young trees often have much bigger leaves than their adult counterparts. So that's what confused me about it. A magnificent old tree. Jackalberry. Mespiliformes. Right, on we go. Right, everybody, great excitement. Scott has found a surprise. We're going to cross over to him quickly, and I'll see you later.
Welcome back, everyone, and look at how lucky we've got here. Nice big yawn, and we didn't find this young male leopard alone. It was the help of another guide, Lee, who some of you may remember. He has had a chat with us before on Drive, and he actually found this young male leopard, who looks to be like Shadow's cub, by responding to some impala alarm calls that he heard, and he came in and investigated and got lucky and found this leopard. And shortly after finding the leopard, 2 hyena arrived onto the scene. The hyena probably also responded to the impala alarm calls, and the 2 hyena, which we can't see but which are lying nearby, chased this young leopard up the tree, and I think it's them that he's vocalizing at, although that is a contact call that he would use to call his mother, so who knows, maybe his mother's arriving. Or it could be simply frustration at the hyena. But his hearing is much better than ours, so he may be hearing the contact calls of his mother, and he may be responding by letting off his own calls. Now what is he going to do next? I'm hoping he's not going to come down the tree, because the hyena are nearby. I've just seen them poking their heads up. They're about 25 meters away from the base of this tree. And an opportunity like this with the beautiful morning sunlight on him is one that I'm not going to pass up, so I'm busy getting my camera out. What is he going to do next? It looks like he may be thinking about sneaking down from this tree, which may not be the best plan he would have made, but he can very quickly sneak up another tree if need be. The hyena are still lying down. They don't seem to be watching him. Thankfully he's maybe deciding another route down, making sure the hyena aren't actually watching him. Isn't this beautiful? I think he's just trying to find an easier way down the tree. Look at this. Too good. Absolutely beautiful. Still not sure about what to do. Maybe it is that he's heard his mother and he's wanting to respond to her, and that's why he's urgent to go, or urgently wants to move. Is he going to jump into the small bush? He could. Prepare yourself for an interesting landing. Oh! Not the most glamorous of descents. The hyena are still lying down but looking in this direction. But there he goes, slinking off. And the hyena are still lying down. They're not aware of where he's gone. And we're going to now do our best to stay with him. And wasn't that really interesting? Lee. Thanks so much. That was crazy. Have a good morning and thanks again. Okay. Oh, where has he gone? Oh, I can see him there. Well, that was just absolutely awesome, folks. Who would have thought we would have been so lucky? Okay. Now, he is a small leopard. He's only 8 months old, so small but in terms of age, and also small in terms of body size, which means you're going to have to be careful that we don't lose him. Wow. The last time I saw this little cub was probably about 2.5 or 3 months ago. He's probably almost doubled in size since then, and interestingly enough, the last time I saw him, he was actually also up a tree, but up a knobthorn tree, and he was stuck up there for days because there was a hyena at the base of the tree, and they had a kill in the tree. Looks like he's thinking about possibly going up another marula tree just on our right. He's at the base of that tree now. I'm just going to try and get into position, and there's a chance he could sneak up here as well. Incredible. So there you can see him sitting at the base of the tree. Very clever of him to move from one tree straight to another. He'll know that the hyena may have got wind that he moved, and by moving from big tree to big tree, it ensures that he has a good escape route. And again, I wonder, those calls that we heard him letting out, whether they were simply calls of frustration at the hyena, or if he had in fact heard his mother calling him. At this stage, we don't know if he's seen his mother since James left him yesterday afternoon. There is a strong chance that she is still out hunting. Well, who knows, possibly he's veered or moved too far away from where she left him, and now they're having trouble finding one another. These little mishaps do happen out here in nature, but thankfully there's nothing to worry about yet. They can spend days without their mother, especially at this age, before it becomes any concern. And as far as I'm aware, he has moved a fair distance off from where James left him last night. Brian's just helping me with directions as I'm trying to focus on driving us on the path of least resistance, and Brian's doing a great job in helping keep an eye on this little leopard. It's just off to our right at the moment, but it's very thick, and I want to just give him a bit of space as well as try and choose the path of least resistance. Oh, I can see something else. I think I can see his mother. I can see his mother. Awesome, it's just up ahead, or it's another leopard. Can you see it there, Brian? In the gap. And they're going to greet one another. They're going to meet up. I'm just going to move ahead into different positions. This is awesome. The mother's just up ahead. I think it's the mother. Can you see her there on that dead stump, Brian? Yep. Awesome, look at this. Now, who is it? I'm fairly certain it is his mother. Yeah, and that's incredible. She has been calling him from that long way off, And that's why he came down the tree, and that's why he took a chance with those hyena. And he's just at the base of the tree. He's going to jump up now. There we go. Awesome. No ways. This is too good to be true. For our timing to be right, to see them reunite like this is an absolute jackpot. Incredible. Wow. Whew. Let's go get a little bit closer.